Hi there, my name's Bob Dunsmore, and I'm going to share with you tonight what's upon my heart. I'm deeply disturbed that our government has been taken over in a corrupt and criminal coup, which we, the people, can take down and must take down. We did not ask King George for permission to have a revolution, to become independent, to create a government without monarchy, without oligarchy, without kleptocracy, without criminal behavior, unconstitutional behavior. This man should never even been allowed to run for president. So something has broken down, and of course we know what that is, and that is that the power no longer resides in the people. Never has, really, but we have an opportunity now to take over this government. You know how? By getting the polls, if necessary, or by going to our website where you can vote and have it encrypted by the blockchain and be able to have a personal ledger where you can see on the blockchain your transaction number, whether or not it was counted, your vote, and most importantly, whether or not it was counted correctly. And it'll be there in a blockchain, transparent and unhackable. And that's our website. Here, let me see if I can get this in there for you, where you can vote right now on the first question. I'll tell you what that is in just a second, but here's the website. I hope you can see that okay. We the people .directvotedemocracy.com. And when you get there, just click on the colorful image of democracy. We forgot to put an instruction there. And that'll take you to a phone number. You'll want to give your phone number. And this won't work for any other country except the U.S., by the way. And answer then whether or not you're a robot, and enter that code, and it'll take you to the first page where there's a description, a brief one, of the first question before the nation right now, which is so important. Oh, God. It's whether or not you would prefer to live in a constitutional democracy. Because right now we live in a corporate republic registered in Puerto Rico. That's the last I understood anyway. But we are a corporation, and you can see what corporate control, which was eventually institutionalized and has now become the predominant governmental force in our nation, is totally against the Constitution. It's totally against what the American people want. So I believe that once we declare once the majority of people in this country say we want a constitutional democracy, you can vote there at our website, yes, or also you can just declare, once we get a majority, through polls or whatever, that the majority of people want a constitutional democracy. We don't have to ask permission of nobody. We didn't ask permission of King George to overthrow a government that was corrupt, criminal, unjust. I could go on and on. Something terrible has happened, and it is all about money. The thing that Christ taught most was the evil, the corrupting power of money, and that you wouldn't even be able to get into heaven if you were rich and you were not caring for the least of these. So, I am proposing that we as a people make it clear that we want a constitutional democracy, and when we're aware the majority of people in this country want that, which I know to be the case, then we simply declare a constitutional democracy. We dissolve the Congress, if we will. What I would like to do is allow congressional people to stay in office if they pledge allegiance to the majority will. And if not, step aside, please. We've got so much to do, like saving the planet, for example, which is scheduled to collapse into an irreversible extinction within 3 or 4 years of this year, 2025. And so a solution, if it's going to be successful to climate change and reversing global warming, has to happen before that irreversible tipping point is reached. So many tipping points have been reached with the coral reefs, the forests, the tundra, that some scientists believe that we're already beginning to slide to where we will not be able to control or reverse anything. It'll simply be, as a book says, the heat will kill you first, and most of life on the earth then becomes extinct. So we need to understand that right now the corporations are making billions of dollars selling us the idea that the best thing for reversing climate change is to invest in EVs and batteries and windmills and solar panels, which are all wonderful things, but they're not going to help. In fact, they're aggravating global warming tremendously, exponentially, by dumping billions and billions of tons of carbon into the atmosphere in the manufacturing process. Even the glass for solar panels is made out of mined quartz with fossil fuel energy going in to produce it, and actually quartz put into the, or coal put into the quartz to give it the kind of impurity it needs to make it work as a solar panel for electricity. It goes on. And the fact is, and I'll tell you who taught me this, the #1 climate scientist in the United States, John Berger. I had the privilege of meeting him in his living room in Oakland, California, and his telling me, Bob, that carbon that is being dumped into the atmosphere right now to create all this monstrosity, like the windmills, and which are going to create the biggest landfill problem in the world's history. That carbon won't dissipate from the atmosphere, he told me, for 300 or 400 years. And if we only have 3 or 4 years before we may lose control of the entire planet, then he pointed out there's only one solution, and it's a glorious solution. It's low-tech, low-risk. It's all about carbon farming, as John Berger puts it. And it is the drawing down of carbon into the life of the soil, and then from there to the tissue of plants, and then that becomes a carbon drawdown machine, that plant in itself. And this propagates. And so if we can regenerate the soil through regenerative organic farming, like if the people mandate that all agribusiness go organic, you can imagine the benefits, including the end of the immigration problem, the ability for millions of farmers who have left their fields because they can't grow the seeds. The seeds have termination genes in them. The pollens have contaminated everywhere in the world. And so they have to buy the seed and the chemicals in order to survive as farmers, just killing the earth. And these corporations have become record-breaking in profits, by killing the source of life. What in Kansas farmers told me is like the end of birth is a sin against God. So there's a solution. Reforestation is the other one, and I've worked in 20 countries, and so I understand why it's hard to do reforestation in countries where a total of 2 billion people go out every day around the world and cut down trees in order to feed their families, to have fire. It's the only energy that is not subsidized. What I consider the most essential in the world to feed your family, that's not subsidized, that energy, and so they just go and cut trees. Coal is subsidized, oil, gas, nuclear. It's all upside down thanks to the bottom line, profit. And so I propose that we simply remove Trump from office as a popular demand and install Kamala Harris, which it's now pretty well proven she had more of the popular votes, easily took the Electoral College and the popular vote itself by at least 3,500,000 votes that were purged just simply by being challenged. So we could easily make a change that the people want and have already voted for, and that's install Kamala Harris and as President of the United States, and Tim Walz as a Vice President, and then begin to really deal with the problems and demand a solution to climate change like the one being proposed by John Berger. Let me just read a little bit here and show you. John Berger is an environmental science and policy specialist, a prize-winning author and journalist, a graduate of Stanford University. Let me back up here a little bit more. There we go. And the University of California. Berger has written for Scientific American, HuffPost, the Los Angeles Times, the Boston Globe, the Christian Science Monitor, and the USA Today magazine. He has been a consultant to the National Research Council of the National Academy of Sciences and the U.S. Congress, as well as a professor at the University of Maryland. John co-founded the Nuclear Information and Resource Service and founded Restoring the Earth to bring environmental restoration to national attention. Let me go ahead and just read what he has to say is the only solution, a system that can safely pull billions of tons of carbon. Let's see if I can read this while I back off here. Out of the atmosphere to substantially reduce. Let's see where we are here. To substantially reduce or even eliminate global warming. What if this approach costs relatively little and can be used around the world for, let's see here, around the world? What if it also put billions of dollars to cash in hands of countless working Americans and people worldwide? What if it even slashed fuel consumption and made the world more resilient to climate stress? All of this information, by the way, is on our YouTube channel of our nonprofit, the Heart Mind Alliance. Good News with an exclamation point, Climate Crisis Solution. And on TikTok channel, it's Bob's Your Uncle. And this is what needs to be done now or never. He says, well, it turns out there is a system that can do all that. It is called carbon farming. And it just, let's see if I can read it here again. And it just may be the key to stabilizing the climate, and in the process it can revitalize rural economies while also producing healthier and much more nutritious crops. And amazingly, it is low cost, low tech, and low risk. It's a down-to-earth solution to global warming that employs nature's omnipresent carbon cycle, which constantly shuttles molecules of carbon into and out of the atmosphere. Now, it also out of the soil, fresh water, and oceans. But yet carbon farming is still neither widely known nor widely practiced today. So, I believe, sorry about this, I'm using my camera to video this, so I know it's a little sloppy and it's not rehearsed. I believe that we cannot deal with the popular mandate that's necessary to bring about, say, the reorientation of subsidies, not to farmers who kill the soil and continue to contaminate its waters. Fossil water that's been there for millions of years, gone, contaminated, destroyed, fracked. It's all very, very sad, but it's making people a lot of money, so what do they care, right? Well, we are beginning to care, and I believe that we can find out one way or another through our website, WeThePeople.directvotedemocracy.com, or through polling of whatever kind, and try to get the word, this particular video, into the hands of the people who really are making a difference. I want them to be able to hear that they've been fooled and tricked. It's just another great lie that building all this infrastructure will help with global warming. No, it'll help with energy consumption in the future if we survive. But right now, the planet will not survive unless we begin to understand what carbon drawdown is, carbon sequestration, which is storing carbon in the earth and in the mycelium and the root system of plants and putting it there for thousands of years. And scientists have told me that a small amount of arable land, for example, in India, 1% of India's arable land, if it were regenerated and life came back into the soil, it would draw down all the carbon dioxide created by humans on the planet. I wasn't the only one who heard this. My wife did too. I wouldn't be sharing this with you if I didn't know that others had heard the same thing from this climate scientist. So there's a solution. There's hope for millions of young people who have given up hope that they even have a future. This is important, and it's low cost and low risk and low tech. And let's do it, but let's get the people together to declare a constitutional democracy. Let's get the facts here. Let's find out if we are a government, or can be a government of, for, and by the people. Thank you. Bye-bye.